are up and ready to go here. Let's get this first match underway, ladies and gentlemen. The number 5 seed, average 222 this week, and bowled the tournament's only perfect game from Sugar Land, Texas. Please welcome Paul McCordic.
All right, folks, we're underway here at the inaugural Super Senior Classic Stepladder Finals. Paul McCordic starting off with a strike. Eric Pearson is going to announce our number 4 competitor.
4 seed, average 223 this week, hailing from Plano, Texas. Please welcome Willie Wells.
Willie Wells, our number 4 seed, stepping up. And we're underway. And welcome, everybody, live on Bowl TV. I'm Aaron Smith, joined by Eric Pearson. We are underway in the first match, the Stepladder Finals. Number 4 seed Willie Wells taking on Paul McCordic.
You should make sure you have me talk as quiet as possible here, Aaron.
All right, Eric.
Good start for Willie.
Each competitor off to the races with a strike here.
Yeah, they bowled great all week. 12 initial games of qualifying, 2 6-game blocks. Willie's been near the top of the leaderboard the whole week, and then a 5-game cashers round this morning. All 5 of our finalists averaged over 220 for the 16 games.
Here's Willie in the second. Looked left off his hand, Eric.
Looked a little tight, for sure. I was going to say it when it got to the arrows there. But Willie had the ball pushed fairly well throughout all the qualifying games. Looks like he's throwing quite a bit more surface.
All right. Willie left a 4-7-10.
You know, definitely more surface than he used during the qualifying games. I didn't get a chance to see him bowl a whole lot on the fresh, though. I heard he had a couple rough games earlier today. 170, was it game 2?
He had a 170 in there earlier. Actually dropped him all the way from first. He dropped to 4th, was 5th for a while, ended up in the 4 seed.
And I can see where, you know, they did get 15 minutes out here. The other finalists got 15 minutes. The TV pair, but can't guarantee that they've transitioned as much as necessarily he needs them to for him to be comfortable. All the players said they're just a hair tighter than they were earlier. Very common when you strip and oil lanes multiple times during an event. You know, so it's easy if it's only a 1 or 2 board move with your feet, but if it means you might have to switch balls or play a completely different angle. Obviously, they're not going to be as comfortable as they were when they threw, you know, average 220 for their qualifying game. So we'll see what happens.
All right, Paul McCordic cleans up the 4-pin. Went through the nose. Paul, the lone lefty on our Stepladder final. The winner of this match will take on Paul's brother, Pete McCordic, our number 3 qualifier. Once again, 1-game matches here. And the flat 7.
Yeah, it looks like definitely a stronger ball than he has been throwing.
I think that's the first time I've actually seen him use that throughout competition this week. I think that's a Rotogrip Defiant Soul. Paul shot the lone 300 of the event. The 12th game of qualifying yesterday. That was seen live right here on Bowl TV.
Yeah, he had made that ball change. I believe it was after game 4 and went 267, 300.
I think it was 269, 300.
Yeah, you know, I believe it was just him and maybe one, maybe two other lefties in the whole field. So I mean, I can't see, you know, things opening up for him, you know, to be able to that much of a weaker ball. But you know, I just think it's very common. You strip and re-oil lanes, and they just feel the hair tighter to the players, and I think Paul will find a way to get it off his hand a little bit different, and he'll be fine. Willie covering more boards. I think they should play a little bit trickier for him.
All right, here's Willie Wells in the third. Comes up light. Leaves only the 2-pin.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely think the key for Willie is to allow that ball to recover. I mean, that is his game. He does play deeper than most of the other players. You know, finds that, you know, soft release, lets the ball float.
And with the conversion, Willie Wells down 11.
That definitely works better when the lanes are a little bit fried out, you know, a little bit dried up from the play and the track drying up. And I just don't think he's going to have that here. So I think the key for him is just to stay soft enough to carry some of those light hits. And once he gets through this, if the lane continues to transition, you know, hopefully he can go up the ladder. For Paul, it's, you know, almost the same. He just has to carve away at it by himself, and hopefully he's already done that in practice as much as he could. It's got to start up.
And my goodness,
wow.
7-10. Willie has caught a few of those down the stretch here towards the end of today's Cashers round. I think that's his third one that we've seen it here on the feature pairs. Willie will take the one. Has to shake that off. 2 open frames on lane 9. This is a chance for Paul to really take advantage here. Build up his lead.
Yeah, I mean, here's a situation where, I mean, they bowl great all week, but it just basically comes down to a sprint. And as the player, when the lanes feel a little bit different, you know, you're kind of in shock mode here. It's like, what do I need to do? Those decisions have to be made immediately. Paul has a little bit of leeway here where now he can just try to keep it in play. He's got a lead already. Obviously, if he can pour it on with some strikes here in the middle of the game, he might put this away real early.
With a strike here.
I don't think Willie can get discouraged by the last shot, though. He did what he needed to do. It just, you know, it's that typical face the pocket a little bit too late, and you leave the blower 7-10. That next shot, same ball might carry.
With a strike here in the 5th, Paul McCordic could go up 34. That looked good off his hand, Eric. Big double here.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to talk to them before the match, but I would assume Paul chunked away at a spot as much as possible. They only got 15 minutes, but I think his game plan had to be get in a spot, keep throwing it there, and hope I can get through this match and burn that up a little bit so that I can stay with the rest of the right-handers that are in front of him. So right now for Paul, so far so good. Willie's got to get it going.
The 10-pin cooperates at the end there.
Yeah, almost another flat 10. It's very common here. If you talk to people who bowl here at the ITRC, that's one of the big things. The lanes feel tight. The ball doesn't pick up and face the pocket real easy. So for the players here that had success during the week, maybe now they're starting to feel a little bit of that as we've done lane maintenance here and redid the lanes for the TV show.
All right, Willie Wells in the 6th. Needs a double here to put some pressure on Paul McCordic.
It's got a hold. There you go.
Big shot there by Willie Wells. Coming to you from Plano, Texas.
Yeah, his game doesn't look a lot different than he did during qualifying. Just the cover looks a little stronger. It looks like he's in a similar part of the lane. His tempo and ball speed don't look a whole lot different than when we watched him earlier. So I'm not sure if he would move a little right and square up if he'd get the ball to face the pocket sooner. But that last shot was perfect where he was at.
Here's Paul McCordic. Gets them all to fall. That's a 3-bagger in the middle of this first stepladder match.
Yeah, you can just almost sense that they're working a lot harder than they have.
The lanes were opening up much quicker throughout the week with 4 bowlers on a pair compared to 2 just here.
And a 6-game block, which was nice. It gave the lanes some time to transition.
Paul looking for 4 in a row. Hoping it would hold, and the big 4 in the 7th.
I just don't think that didn't get off his hand very well.
This is going to give Willie Wells a chance to get right back in this match.
Yep. Stayed with him a little bit too long. Obviously, I mean, we're not right behind him, but obviously that ball didn't get going down the lane. There was definitely pulled that. Had no chance at staying off the nose.
All right. All you can do there is take the 2 and regroup for frame 8. 141 in the 7th for Paul McCordic.
Well, Willie can double and get this right back to even, huh?
Willie Wells can
strike here.
Be right back in it.
Puts him in a position to step up and double to take the lead. Last ball in this lane was a little bit light. Carried the 10-pin a little bit late. We'll see if he just keeps it on line more or maybe softens it up. That looks good. Wow. Nope. Just does not get around the corner.
2, 4,
Wow.
8, 10. Has a chance to make up some ground after Paul McCordic's big 4, and like you said, I
thought that ball was
agreed
more
with
on
you.
line.
I thought it was.
It didn't look as wide as the previous shot, and halfway down the lane, I thought it was flush.
Willie takes 2, leaving the 8-10 standing. Finds himself down 34, stepping up in the 8th. It's tough to give it right back there. Chance to get.
Yep. Well, I want to say he needs to strike out here, but he needs 8, 9, and 10, I would say, at a minimum.
197 still out there.
I just don't think Paul's going to open again. He's going to keep it clean here and shoot high 190s.
All right, Willie bounces back, mixes him up. Shaking his head. He knew he let the frame get away there. These competitors are bowling on a 41-foot sport-compliant pattern.
Yeah, I'm sure we had a few people question that during the week. Scores were great.
We have some great competitors out here, and we'll see that throughout the entire stepladder.
Yeah, very impressed with the talent of the field out here. We had a very exciting first cut as we got it down to the cutting it to the cashers round, which was the top 8. But we had 2 or 3 people there just that last game almost snuck in by way of shooting 270s. We had another bowler with the front 8 or 9. Could have easily had a couple different faces in the cashers round with some strikes in the 9th and 10th frames.
Paul McCordic leaves the 6-pin in the Just looking to stay clean here. He's all over it. We'll set up the 9th. Paul's brother Pete practicing down on 1 and 2 here at the International Training and Research Center. Getting ready, the winner of this match will take on the 2-time PBA Tour titleist. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm Aaron Smith along with Eric Pearson.
Hey, Aaron.
Hey, Eric. Long time no see. All right, we're getting down to crunch time here in our first stepladder final. Stepping up on 9, Paul McCordic. Big strike there. Paul sets up the 10th.
Yeah, I still don't think he's totally comfortable that that ball's going to carry the 7-pin out every shot. Now that ball definitely got down the lane, straighter. He probably can even feed it a little bit to the left, but then it's got to have enough on it to roll strong enough to slap out the 7. So I think he needs to just keep plugging along here, and he's done on that lane. So
right now, Willie Wells
let's a little
needs
tighter.
them all. Sends the 6 around the 10. Gotta be a little perplexed after the 2-4-8-10 last time on this lane.
Yeah, well, he struck there in the 1st and the 5th though. So
Just enough of the spare. Right now, Willie can step up in the 10th.
hard to see, what the differences are. Obviously, you're not the bowler, so you can't quite feel it. You know when you miss it at the bottom a little bit, you might leave a corner pin, or the ball might not quite face at the right time and leave, whatever. But as far as the shots going down the lane on line, they don't look that different. I thought he was actually giving the ball more room earlier in the game.
Here's Willie Wells in the 10th. Big first shot. Can max out at 177 here. Paul McCordic more or less just needs count to advance.
Yeah, needs a few pins.
So if Willie does not strike here, Paul wins on the bench. Gets to face his twin brother, Pete McCordic. Matt Cannizzaro and I were going back and forth a little bit. They were on our feature pair in 11 and 12 in the cashers round, and there's still got to be some friendly sibling rivalry there. I'm sure they want each other to do well, but I'm sure they enjoy sneaking one out on the... Granted, there's not an older or younger, since they're...
Well, one's got to be older.
Well, barely.
I mean, still. He uses that through life, right? I'm the older brother, right? The younger one's the spoiled one, gets what they want from mom and dad. Isn't that how it works? That's how it worked in my household. I was talking with them earlier in the week. They said they have bowled a couple events, maybe, I'm assuming regionals where they met in the finals, but not necessarily the title match. They said they've never done that. But
all right, Willie Wells finishes with 176 after a great week of bowling. Paul McCordic just needs count here to advance to the next round. Leaves the ring 7, but that will be enough. Paul McCordic. Our number 5 seed will advance. All right, Paul cleans up the spare. Get a chance to try something out here. Maybe go to the bag. Looks like he's gonna give something else a shot. That looks like the ball he was using most of the week. That rolled pretty good. Paul finishes with 201 against Willie Wells 176. We'll have our next match starting in a minute here. Pete will get the opportunity to practice here on our championship pair. And while we wait for that, we'll give you a quick recap. The Super Senior Classic kicked off Eric Pearson having trouble walking over here. He's going to announce Pete McCordic for the next match here soon, but we'll give you a quick recap. The Super Senior Classic kicked off Wednesday with 6 games of qualifying. All competitors returned on Thursday for an additional 6 games.
So our first match, Paul McCordic will advance with a 201 to 176 victory to meet his brother Pete. A great round of applause for great going from Willie Wells all week long. Our 5th place finisher. Great going, Willie. Pete will get his handful of warm-up shots here. And also he gets the choice of starting lane for this next match.
Competitors return.
As the 2 just turned 60-year-olds will face off in our second match. Coming up.
And Paul McCordic take battle here. Paul winning 201 to 176. So we'll be right back once Pete finishes up his practice here and the match starts up. Stay tuned.
All right, we're ready to get on with our next match. Paul will start the match on the left-hand lane.
All right,
the
folks.
names back in the system. As pin setters will fire up, arrows will come up, and we'll get ready to go.
All right, folks, we're just about ready to start up our second match here. in a brother versus brother match. Number 5 seed Paul McCordic will be taking on number 3 seed Pete McCordic, the lefty versus the righty, here at the International Training and Research Center, the Super Senior Classic Stepladder Finals. I'm Aaron Smith. Eric Pearson will be joining me in a second. He also has MC duties here. He'll be introducing Pete. So we're getting underway. Paul's going to start the match on lane 9. Great shot there by Paul to kick off the match.
Ladies and gentlemen, the number 3 seed, average 226 during our qualifying week from Katy, Texas. Please welcome Pete McCordic.
All right, this is going to be our first look at Pete McCordic in the finals. A 2-time PBA national champion. Eric Pearson back with us.
Hey, Aaron.
And all 10 for Pete. The sibling rivalry continues.
That should be a good match. Paul with a high flush strike to start. Did try the other ball at the end of the game. With the way we format the TV show, the winner of each match does not get to keep throwing on the pair. This totally gives an advantage to the higher seed, gets to come over, throw their shots.
All right, here's Pete in the second.
That's a little wide.
Looks like Pete's playing a little further right than Willie Wells in the last match.
A little bit further right, but further left than I would have expected him. I don't know if did he hook the ball that much during qualifying rounds. I never stood right behind him.
It seemed he was maybe a little further right throughout.
Just a little bit straighter in the front.
Pete cleans up the spare. Welcome everybody. This is the second match in our stepladder finals here at the Super Senior Classic. Looks like we've got a good crowd on hand. A few people chatting in the chat room. I guess that's what you do in a chat room.
Chit chat.
Here's Paul in the second.
Ouch.
The 7-9 almost stands. Paul gives Pete a look on that one, and fortunate just to have the 9 pin up there. I'd gladly take a 9 spare here.
I'm thinking he probably thought strike or maybe the 7, but not both. And actually, the 7 is the one that barely goes out.
All right, just like that, match is all square.
And this is interesting because, had he received a few practice balls or even 1 or 2 on this pair, I guarantee you he would have tried that ball again on the other lane, or because it looked good going down the lane.
It looked very
on
good.
the fill, and yet he not willing to take that chance and go to that.
Here we are in the third. The light 3 pin. It felt like he used the ball he switched to on the fill ball much more throughout the week.
Yes.
And it looked great there, so. Going back to the ball.
Like I said, I think it's just a matter of time here if he can just stay in the matches and keep it close. I mean, obviously he can strike. Even the shots that are a little bit off are slight, flat 7s. The 3 pin there. I mean, he had 1 high 6 pin. So if he can just plug along and not have his opponent run away from him, I think he's gonna hang in there, and you just don't know what's gonna happen. Pete's reaction though looks real good. The ball's clean in the front, and it's definitely picking up and slowing down at the right time. So I think if he can keep the ball on line and keep it on target, he's gonna strike.
Great shot by Pete there.
He made
early
a
lead.
couple comments earlier. He said probably the biggest thing he's not ready for us. He just doesn't feel like he's competition strong. You know, so now even though he bowled well in qualifying and you're just basically chasing a number, now it gets to a point where it's kind of a different level, and you know you got to get up and make quality shots. So he said there was a few things he's focusing on. Number one, just really the direction of his push away, and he said it's really important for him that he stays down at the line. And if he does that with a couple other things, he does have a little bit of area, he said. I mean, we all know he has that
Great shot there
pretty
in the
much that
fourth.
standard finishing position that we're used to seeing for a long, long time. It's changed a little bit over the years, but when he lets go of the ball, you can definitely tell it's him if you're in the building.
All right, Paul's going to have to respond here.
He's got to pick up.
Throws a few things at the 10 pin, everything but the kitchen sink. Unable to fall. I feel the scoring pace of this match is going to require a little bit more than 201 to advance, as we saw in our last match.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you were just watching Pete's ball roll. The lanes all of a sudden don't look tight like they did with the angles that Willie was playing.
Paul converts to spare, but finds himself down early in the match here.
He's changing.
In a one-game match, you got to make.
I think he's decided that if he can't give Pete, if he doesn't strike here, if Pete can get up and throw another strike or double, he's going to be way behind. So he's making the move now.
10 in the pit. Great shot there. Big ball change.
Well, if this turns out to be about a 10-pin match, when it's all said and done, he's going to kick himself. Because I think he wanted to change. Just couldn't quite pull the trigger, but on the other hand, you got to give him a lot of credit for this early going. You know what, I got to do something. I'm making the move and sticking to it. So, and anything can happen here yet.
Pete mixes him up. He looks like he was saying thank you after that one.
Yeah, it's fun watching them bowl during the qualifying. They nice small bowling center here. We're only using 7 pairs of lanes for the competition, and they roamed up and down the lanes. You know, you could tell if they were comfortable with the look they had. They went and stood behind their brother to see how they were doing. I noticed both of them doing that throughout the competition, helping each other out, whatever it was.
Here's Pete in the 6th. Gets 4 in a row. Back-to-back light mixers. Putting the pressure on his twin brother Paul. We talked about it all week. Both of them actually turned 60 on Wednesday. Just in time for the Super Senior Classic. Open to all USBC members age 60 and above. The 7 stands in the 6th. All of a sudden, this feels like it might be slipping away.
Well, I mean, he stays clean here. Gets the next one. It doesn't look good, but there's still a lot of time here. If you can just fill this up, strike in the 7th. Still room for 238.
All right, here we go. 7th frame, Paul McCordic. Hits high, unable to trip the 8. And another 9 count for Paul. Only 2 strikes through 7 frames. Brother Pete has 5 out of 6. Paul's still clean. Might need some help from Pete here too.
Yep, now he does, yes.
Get back into this match.
Yeah, Paul's only got room for 220s, so he needs quite a bit of help at this point.
A little bit of brotherly love there on the 9th pin.
That would have been interesting, a 4-9 there.
That was certainly giving Paul a little more hope here, but Pete is catching the McCordic breaks all this game. After nearly leaving the 4-9 in the last shot, Pete goes high. Leaving the 3-6, talking to his brother after that one. Pete takes care of the spare, up
All right.
41.
Well, Paul needs to get up and throw a 2 here, just to put a little bit of pressure on. Room for 227. Max. Pete's on a 230 pace. So he needs to strike, that needs to hurt.
Paul gets him to mix up.
If he strikes here, puts a little pressure on Pete, you know, who knows, maybe he gives himself a chance here in the 10th, but gotta have this one.
Pete's last 2 shots have ran a bit high. Let's see if Paul can buckle down here. Put some pressure on his twin brother.
Yeah, must strike. That's rolling pretty good.
And another 7 pin. Another 9 count for Paul McCordic.
Yeah, definitely trying to play up the lane. He's got a lot of roll on the ball, you know, trying to keep it on line, and it just doesn't have the ability to face the pocket. If you notice, most of his strikes he threw were kind of the light slasher type strike, not the. It didn't get down the lane and face and change direction and roll through the pins real well. Every time he did get the ball to pick up and turn a little bit, just did too much end over end. It just can't change and get the right direction to get that half hit to carry the side.
Pete stepping up in the 9th here, just needing.
That's inside, which is what we saw when Paul had during qualifying when he had the game where he was struggling and he had to switch balls and then he turned it on. And that's exactly what his ball was doing, what we're seeing now. So.
Well, if Pete can cover this up, we'll just need a few pins to shut out brother Paul. Either that or get a few pins in the 10th frame, just staying behind the line at this point. Paul can max out 207. Paul went to the bag, grabbed another ball.
Yeah, which looks very similar to the one he was already throwing. So
it might be a different layout, different surface, and
yeah, maybe this is the one he was throwing earlier in the week.
Could have been. And with that shot right there, Pete McCordic, your number 3 seed, will advance to the next match to face number 2, Don Blatchford. So Pete wins the family matchup here. It was kind of funny after 12 games of qualifying. Paul shot 300 in the finale to get ahead of Pete by 1 pin to come into today's cashers round. But Pete wins in the end here. Pete is going to make a ball change as well, try something different. Last few shots running a bit high.
I think he just got those balls in a little bit. The 2-3-3-6 leaves he had, definitely a deeper line there.
Pete finishes with 235.
A solid game. 5-bagger, kind of in the middle of the game.
I think Paul.
That ball had some nice big sweeping motion on the back that continued through the pins, didn't it?
It almost looked like the second he released it, that was the one he should have been using. Well, he made a few changes throughout the game, trying to catch up to his brother after he got out to the early lead.
Yeah, ball makes a little more definitive move. Kind of gets to that spot and has a little more faster change of direction facing the pocket. But maybe he felt earlier on the fresher condition that might have been uncontrollable. He didn't want that. Maybe he wanted more even, continuous motion.
And Paul finishes up 197. So, in the battle of the McCordics, Pete is our winner. We'll hold on for a few seconds to get on to our next match. Number 2 seed, Don Blatchford, will be taking on number 3 seed, Pete McCordic, here at the ITRC Super Senior Classic. We'll be back in just a moment as Blatchford gets a few practice balls here prior to the beginning of the match. Please stay tuned.
In the battle of the McCordic brothers, Pete will advance with a 235 to 197 victory over Paul. He will take on Don Blatchford in our semifinal match. Round of applause for Paul McCordic. Great week. Tournament 300 game. Congratulations. And we have a few practice balls here to get ready before our semi-final match.
All right, good afternoon once again, everybody. This is Aaron Smith. I'll be joined shortly by Eric Pearson. We are at the International Training and Research Center for the 2013 Super Senior Classic. We are here in beautiful Arlington, Texas. We're in practice right now. Don Blatchford is getting ready to take on Pete McCordic in our third step-ladder match of the day. Right now you can see Kerry Painter, our #1 seed, also practicing on the pair. Blatchford is getting ready. We're a shot or two away from getting back to competition. Just a recap of how we got so far today if you're just tuning in. In our opening match, Paul McCordic defeated Willie Wells 201 to 176. In the match we just saw, the battle of McCordic brothers, Pete was able to outlast Paul 235 to 197. We have Pete McCordic making it back to our feature pair here, so it looks like we're just about ready to get set here. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. We got a nice crowd, more than 300 people, checking out some fantastic Super Senior action here at the ITRC. Super Senior Classic was open to any USBC member 60 years and older. We had 28 competitors make it out this week. Our next match with Don Blatchford, a PBA 50 Tour regular, makes a lot of the stops. Of course, Pete McCordic, a two-time PBA national champion, most notably known for shooting a perfect game in the televised show. It was the 4th ever PBA history at the time. There's been 22 total, so very small club Pete's a part of. It looks like we're just about set, so this is shaping up for a great matchup. Don started the day in 5th, worked his way up into a tie for 1st. He lost the roll-off to Kerry Painter, 219 to 217 for the #1 seed. So right now, 2 versus 3. We're going to turn the lanes back on here in a minute. Get the names up there correctly, and we'll be ready for action. All right, Don Blatchford will start the game on the left lane. Pete McCordic on the right. So Eric Pearson is going to do his announcement. We'll be underway.
All right, bowling fans, we are ready for our semi-final match. Ladies and gentlemen, the #2 seed, average 228 during this week's qualifying from Santa Monica, California. Please welcome Don Blatchford.
All right, here's our first look at Don Blatchford in the step-ladder finals. And he starts the game off right, Eric.
Great shot to start. Similar area that Pete McCordic is in.
Looks like Don's a little straighter.
I'm not totally up on the equipment, but he said he's been back and forth between a disturbed and a vivid during the week. Pete's definitely gone left with the a ball change
Just getting
from
more
where he started.
Getting more in the area that we saw Willie Wells at in our opening match. both players off to the races here.
And a very good reaction, and definitely no doubt solid strikes. So we'll see what happens. I think they're moving in a little bit. They're going to get into the flatter part of the pattern. I'm not sure they'll have a lot of tug area in there, but they do have a little bit of angle through the front, so they are feeding the ball to the right.
Pete gets that to stand up at just the right time.
And right there's probably the limit of him not pushing the ball far enough to the right. That ball is just enough to go high and get the 4 out.
All right, here's our first look at Blatchford on the right lane. And the 3-6, we've seen a few of those through our step ladders here. Don averaged more than 250 in the Cashers round to move up from 5th to 2nd.
250.
Cracked 1,000 for the 4 games.
Did he? I had 280 something. 287 the first game. Was that the front 10?
He started off with the front 10. Actually, it was on this pair, 9 and 10.
Good way to start the morning.
He found himself down 50 from 4th place at the start of the day and worked his way up.
He said the disturbed that he threw does go longer, but felt like the carry was good with it in qualifying. But they were definitely tighter today, so he went to the little bit earlier Vivid that he's throwing, and he said it worked great today. I can't quite tell what he's throwing now, though.
There's a great shot by Don there.
Definitely gets around the ball nicely so the ball can get through the front part of the lane. And then still has the right motion to pick up, and
that appears to be the Vivid.
That's the Vivid?
That was the Vivid, yes.
Looks
like Pete McCordic is throwing an IQ, not the Tour, but one of the original IQs.
It looks tight.
That was left, crosses over, leaves the 5-9.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by the move. It's almost like he went into another zone here. I don't know if he feels like the lane's, if he feels like it's opening up, you know, he's moving left, but then, you know, he's not getting the ball to the right.
Covers the spare.
The other thing I think that's happening is the lane is transitioning to where you're kind of getting into Kerry Painter's wheelhouse here, sitting in the top seed. You know, not that I think it really matters. If you told Kerry he had to play 8 or 18, he's not going to care. He's going to find a way to get the job done. But I think as far as moving left and trying to open up the lane, that might give Kerry a little bit of an advantage. But I'm not sure how opened up they really are. I can't really say that these moves are justified.
Another high hit for McCordic, leaving the 4-7.
Of course, I'm not out there, and I don't have a feel for the lane. And you know, the bowler does what they feel or they sense. So Pete with an early double and clean. Don's going to get up on 10 where he went high last time. I think last time he just kind of got around the ball a little bit earlier. Just your typical close down on the shot and never got the ball out over his target. Let's see what he does here. It's tight again.
It looks left. Fortunate to leave just the 6-10.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe they feel like there's a hang spot, or feeding the ball to the right's not going to do them any good, but definitely can't get the ball on line that straight from that deep on the lane. Even the spare shots in.
Oh, big miss there.
And then again, I mean, you only
Right
do
down.
10 frames, and it doesn't mean you're going to get up and throw every ball great. Paul McCordic commented that he just didn't throw the ball very pure that game in his loss to his brother. He just he bowled okay, but he didn't throw enough pure shots to keep up.
McCordic up 18, sitting on the bench after the open
That's
frame.
better.
That goes light after 2 high shots on 10. So it looks like we have 2 guys a little fishing a little bit here. See what kind of adjustment Pete makes here. High once again for Pete McCordic.
Yeah, I mean, even with the 41-foot pattern, those balls are just they're not getting far enough to the right for a break point. So I'm not sure if it's just picking up earlier than they're expecting it to, or if those shots are just inside a target.
Pete covers the 610.
But you can definitely see, just a little bit further than halfway down the lane, those balls are all going to change direction and go high. So
Starting off the 6th.
looks like he's going to change back to his original ball that he used against his brother.
McCordic finds himself up 16 here.
So lucky enough to get to this point and still be clean with a double. So see if he stays put, see if the ball pushes more, maybe even he moves back right.
Better looking shot there.
And you can just see how easy it is where, I mean, even that ball there, yes, it did strike, but it really fought to turn and get back going towards the pocket. It really never got through its hook phase and into a roll. So right now things look a little touchy.
Back-to-back light shots by Don Blatchford here. The way these guys were throwing strikes earlier in the day.
Isn't it nuts?
It's interesting how it's transitioned.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. I mean, I'm assuming, even during earlier in the day, if they tugged the ball, it was going to go high, but they probably felt like they had that extra board or two to go to the right with it. And the minute that just seems to tighten up a little bit, so do the arm swings and getting the ball off the hand on line. The last 2 shots I thought were pretty good for Don. He got him off. I think he threw him where he wanted to, and they just didn't pick up enough. Let's see what he does here.
Actually looks like a ball change here. Looks like he went to that roto grip disturbed. Got the ball to turn over a little bit more. Puts all 10 back.
Yeah, he said it definitely goes longer, but he felt like it carried better. But then when they came in today, and he said the lanes felt like they were tighter, he just had to get away from that ball. It was just too long down the lane. Another trip 4-9.
That one looked pretty close to where he was with that other ball these past few shots, but little something not as strong, pushes a little bit more.
Yeah,
Somewhat high, but
yep. Similar to the 4-9 he tripped out against his brother. I'm assuming you moved a little bit right there. It definitely looked a little straighter through the front of the lane. It picked up earlier, but not as early as the solid cover and held pocket instead of going high.
let's see if he can take advantage of the double. That he's gonna need a hustle. Leaves the 7.
Yeah, if you asked him, he'd probably tell you that's the ball he's thrown the best. You know, it's the cleanest, and he fed it out to where he wanted to, and it just doesn't want to pick up and get back to the head pin as much as it did earlier. He had even commented during the practice, though, that they came over for their warm-up session here before we got started on the live stream, and everybody said they feel tighter, but they all expect it. He says all the tournaments that they are involved with, whether bowling or running, he says we see it all the time. You do the lanes multiple times, they're never gonna feel exactly the same. So.
The strike here, Blatchford can cut it to 17. Once again, another light shot. Now I'll take care of the spare, and
so room for 206.
206 still out there. Pete McCordic on a 2-teen pace.
Yep. So kind of like we saw the last match here. However, Pete will have the opportunity to step up and shut him out. In this case, he will finish first.
And the 5-pin stands on the light mixer.
It's just amazing. Just the way we hear people talk when they bowl here, whether it's employees or Team USA bowlers, but they all kind of say the same things, that the lanes feel a certain way, they play a certain way. And with the fire oil we're using here, and with what we did with the pattern, even though it's sport complying, we felt like we created enough friction in all the right places to create great ball reaction, which I thought we did. But now just a couple of strip and re-oils today, and guess what? They look like what everybody talks about. You get the ball going a little too straight up the lane, it hooks. You give it a little bit too much room to the right, and it hangs.
Here's Pete McCordic in the 9th. And with that, Pete will just need count here in the 10th to advance on to our finals. Waiting in the wings, our number 1 seed, Kerry Painter, out of Fairbanks, Alaska. Light hit there, but that will be enough. Pete McCordic. Our winner here. Game 3 of the Stepladders. So just like that, we're already down to our final match.
So for Don Blatchford, he's going to finish third. And it was only shortly a few hours ago he was in a one-game roll-off with Kerry Painter for the opportunity to be the top seed. So that that one-game match is going to turn into potentially $1,500.
Very true. Pete's going to try. Pete actually brought one ball out. He's going to try a different one, though.
So I
Here on
guess
the
that
fill
is
ball.
get every pin you can in qualifying. You never know. Whether it's make a cut, be higher in the step ladder, or in this case, the potential first seed where you'd finish no lower than second. Just crazy how we only had 28 bowlers total, cut down to 8, and then we have a tie for first after 16 games.
Well, it was, and we got to see the end of that right here on Bowl TV. Blatchford had a chance to shut out in the 10th. He was actually bowling on the same pair with Kerry Painter. And working on a few strikes in a row, he leaves a 6 count. And was only able to get 3 on the spare attempt to finish with 244. Painter was working on 279. Left the 2-8 on his first shot. Covered it. He needed the strike for the tie. He got the strike. And then, as you mentioned, won the one-game roll-off to determine our #1 seed.
Yeah, he's just having trouble getting the ball to face up. The zone on the lane he's at, I'm not sure if he needs to be that deep. He did say earlier that he kind of felt like if there was any help within the structure of the oil pattern, it was between like 8 and 11. But he's definitely not in that part of the lane. Definitely deeper. As I said earlier, you're not out there throwing the ball, so you really don't know. The bowlers get a feel of where they need to be. So.
But that concludes our third match. Pete McCordic, 212 over Don Blatchford, 185. We're going to take a few seconds here as Kerry Painter gets to the lanes. He's going to get practice, so thank you everyone for tuning in. Please stand by for our final match, Kerry Painter and Pete McCordic for the 2013 Super Senior Classic title.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, just a short break. We'll give our top seed, Kerry Painter, a few shots on the TV pair. He'll meet up our third seed, who advances with a 212 to 185 victory. Pete McCordic, so he will take on Kerry Painter in the championship match. And let's hear a round of applause for finishing third place to Mr. Don Blatchford. Great week, Don. Congratulations. And we will be back on the live stream shortly with our title match of the first ever USBC Super Senior Classic. Coming up shortly.
All right, welcome once again, everybody. This is Aaron Smith along with Eric Pearson. You are watching the 2013 ITRC Super Senior Classic. We're getting ready for our final match. We have more than 400 folks tuning in right now, so be sure to tell your friends. Put something on Facebook about it. We got a great match coming up here. The number 1 seed, Kerry Painter, has been at the top of the standings, right around there all week, taking on the number 3 seed, Pete McCordic. We'll give you a quick recap for those of you just tuning in. How we got to our championship match here. In the opener, the number 5 seed, Paul McCordic, defeated number 4 seed, Willie Wells, 201 to 176. Next match saw a brother versus brother match as the number 3 seed, Pete McCordic, defeated brother Paul, 235 to 197. And in our last match, Pete McCordic defeated number 2 seed, Don Blatchford, 212 to 185. So right now, Kerry is finishing up his practice. Gets a few shots here on our championship pair. We're going to shut them off for a second as we figure out who's going to start off the match. Sounds like Kerry Painter will start the match, so we're going to get the scoreboards correct for you. We'll be on our way. Eric Pearson is going to introduce our tournament leader. Painter's been on quite a roll as of late. In August, he won the PBA 50 Senior Super Senior Doubles Classic presented by Brunswick, along with Tom Adcock for his first PBA 50 national title. Later in the month, he went on to win the inaugural High Roller Super Senior Masters, on his way to be named the August IBMA Bowler of the Month.
Ladies and gentlemen, the number 1 seed averaged 228 this week during qualifying and earned the top spot with a 1-game roll-off victory earlier this morning. Please welcome from Fairbanks, Alaska, Kerry Painter.
All right, folks, here we go. The championship match, Kerry Painter, Pete McCordic. It all comes down to this. Welcome back, Eric.
Hi, Aaron. Don't know what's going to happen here. Can't quite tell what he's throwing. Is that a shined up IQ?
Leaves a 3-pin on the first shot. I want to say yes.
Solid. It's real dark, solid, and really shiny.
I know he's using the Storm Bite a little bit during practice.
Yep.
That is an IQ tour. See the red on it?
It's going to change to the bite.
He'll cover up the spare here in the first. First look at Pete McCordic in the championship match. Looks like Pete's going to stick with the ball he started with originally today. He's made a few of them. He's gone 235, 212 in his 2 victories. Looks a little bit what you were talking about earlier, Eric. That ball just kind of laboring a little bit more.
Yeah, I think pretty heavy roll. I mean, if you just watch it, it looks like it's tumbling down the lane. Like he's trying to stay behind it and keep it on line, which then, of course, takes away its ability to face the pocket and change direction sharp enough. So just a very even, I wouldn't even say continuous motion to it, just a very even arcing ball. So I think when it's in the right part of the pocket, it'll strike solid, obviously. He'll probably trip the 4 if he's a touch high with that kind of roll. But just can't get the 7 out on the light hit, possibly 10 pin. that pocket. Now that's a little bit more around the ball.
Great shot there in the second by Pete McCordic.
It just seemed like he had a little bit more rotation on it. A little more rotation, a little more change of direction down lane. So I'm not sure if he's playing the lanes that way intentionally, or, you know, as he said earlier, he's just not necessarily competition sharp, so maybe he's just not repeating shots. Don't really know.
Looks like Kerry made the ball change there. And we're even.
I gotta say, it's been great competition all week. Everybody came in kind of the night we had the Senior Queens finals, and you could tell all the guys are excited to be here and charged up, and qualifying was great. You know, even though 5 out of the 8 guys had, advanced this morning, there was a lot of room for people to maneuver around. That's not the first time we've seen that.
Pocket 7-10. We saw Willie Wells leave one in our first match in the Stepladders. Tough break early on here.
Again, just another sign the ball comes in late. Obviously light. You don't want to see both of them there, especially in a one-game match.
Kerry will take the one and regroup. There's Pete looking for a double. That looked a little left.
Thought it was going to be high.
Leaves the 4.
Well, we've seen him trip out the 4-9 on that hit a couple times. So. Bit my tongue. I thought it might strike.
With the conversion, Pete McCordic up 12. Thank you once again, everybody tuning in. Our biggest crowds of the week here for the Super Senior Classic. This is Aaron Smith and Eric Pearson. We are live in the championship match. Pete McCordic, Kerry Painter. There's McCordic in the 4th. The Greek Church. That kind of came out of nowhere.
Couldn't really tell by his body language that he thought that was going to be that rough of a shot. Until it actually broke and went through the pins, he kind of stood at the line like he liked it. Maybe wishful thinking, thought it was going to go a little high, but right through the heart for 5. So a rough pin count on the spare.
Just like that, Kerry Painter gets a...
Just basically make a spare, strike here, and be in the lead.
Pin on lane 10 for Painter as well. I think I'm so surprised to see so much grinding out here compared to
the
scores we saw earlier today.
Out of these guys, it was just I mean, first of all, in qualifying, I can understand you bowl 6 games and the lanes transition and you see tons of 230s and 240s and whatever, you know, in games 4, 5, and 6. But then to come out this morning, it almost kind of had that feel of a Masters bracket, where you see the qualifying and then they come out for match play and they make them look, not that, you know, they're not easy in qualifying, but when you only put a couple guys on a lane, they tend to make them look a little bit easier. We saw that this morning, the first game, where they got to practice, and once they moved, scores kind of evened out. But
Here's Painter in the 5th. Big strike there to go up 5.
yeah, just lots of big scores, you know, during that round, even big game scores. But no, none of that. But I wouldn't say that it's nerves. All these guys have been around and done all this before. I just think the lanes are just enough of a difference for them. Everything's just a little bit tighter for everybody. That's high.
The 610. We saw Pete try something else on his fill ball at the end of last game in his victory over Don Blatchford. Something looked a little shinier. Don't know if we'll see that here or not.
Well, I mean, I have to believe all 5 guys that have bowled today feel like if they just made the good move and threw good shots, they could win their match. Nobody's gotten run over. You know, some of the matches look like they were decided fairly early, but it could have been close at the end with a ball here, a ball there in the 8th or 9th. So I think right now they're just focused on throwing as good a shot as they can, making a decision, making as good a shot as they can, and knowing that the other guy's doesn't have the world out there. So just
Here's McCordic in the 6th. Taps the 7-pin, unable to fall.
that light hit again.
McCordic covers the spare. With a strike here in the 6th frame, Painter can go up 16.
That's a big shot here. You're just watching it up to here. You don't really feel like Kerry's in the lead, you know, other than the one rough frame on Pete. I almost feel like he's kept the ball in play better, but still throwing the bite. There's another light 7.
Quite a few 7-pins this past few shots. We've seen a lot throughout the week. Definitely a lot earlier in the week at the USBC Senior Queens. It seemed to be a common leave, but it's interesting to think where this match would be if Painter was able to get out the 7-10 in the 3rd frame. Kerry Painter stepping up on lane 9. Finds himself up 6 pins. Great shot there by Painter. Gets all 10 out. Seems Painter has the better look so far. Kerry just has not.
Yeah,
hasn't
I
been
think
for
with
either player
the
right
way
now.
they rotate the ball, you're in a part of the lane where Kerry's probably going to feel more comfortable. I just feel if Pete eases up, the ball's probably going to go high, but he definitely got around that one a little more. A lot of
Great
loft
shot
on
there.
that shot.
Looks like he finally got one a little bit further right to get away from that high 4-pin trip he's been.
Had a little more rotation on it also. I mean, definitely the way it went off the lane and hit the pins, it was perfect. So we'll see. See what happens here on the left lane, because he will have to come back here and finish the match. So.
All right, stepping up in the 8th, Pete McCordic. Chance for a huge double here.
I just feel like the further left he goes, the more he has to ease up and get around the ball for it to recover. That's pretty soft for him.
Comes up light, leaves the 2. Take care of the spare.
I just can't get that double to turn things around here, so now Kerry can do some damage.
We have not seen a double yet this match. Painter can extend his lead.
He's had a couple
To
good shots
16
here
here
on
with the
lane
stroke.
10 though, so. And I think the ability to kind of carry that half hit is to Kerry's advantage here, so. You know, if it means the ball getting around the corner and coming back light, the chances of him mixing the rack are just, I think, a little bit higher than Pete's.
Ring 10. Those are 2 pretty good shots in a row on
Yeah.
lane 10, and he's got both corners to show for it. And it might come down to
Yeah, very
if
great
someone
shot.
can double here.
I mean, I think he threw it online where he wanted to. He kind of couldn't believe it didn't carry. I couldn't see it as he was leaning over. I lost track of the ball. But his body language looked like he liked it. So that's 3 9 counts in a row there.
Kerry takes care of the spare to
Saw a
maintain
little
his
bit
lead.
of that for him at the Senior Masters even.
Finished 3rd this year.
He ran into a little a time frame where he seemed like he got 9 every shot he threw. And his opponent couldn't put him away, but he just couldn't get over that hump and throw a couple strikes back to back and get it going. And same thing happening right here. A lot of good shots, no doubles. So we're right back where we started. 6-pin lead,
6 pins.
both with a spare up, 2 frames to go. Did you already say that?
We're good. Here we go. Kerry Painter, 9th frame. Another 10-pin. That one didn't look as firm
No.
as the last one.
No.
Just like that, Pete McCordic can step up in the 9th and 10th and take home the Super Senior Classic title.
So Kerry's max score here is 197.
Pete still has 202 out there.
So 3 and a good count here, huh?
First things first, Kerry covers the spare. Have to sit on the bench and see what Pete's able to do. If Pete will give him a chance.
Definitely unexpected, huh? Didn't you think we were going to see like 220 to 230s or
Certainly did.
240 games? throughout this. And I like this just as much. As long as it comes down to the end and it means quality shots to strike at the end. I don't care what the score is.
Here we go, Pete McCordic, 9th frame.
Oh,
The 5-8.
so now a spare. And off the sheet.
Force Kerry to double.
Still force him to double, yep.
Pete's takes care of the spare. Will step up in the 10th. Hard to believe, not a single double yet this game. There was ever a time for one. We're here. Final frame action. The Super Senior Classic Championship match. Pete McCordic getting ready to step up on lane 9. Down by 7. And
Unbelievable.
another 7-pin. For Pete McCordic.
I mean, he did all he could. He got in, he softened it up, he got around the ball. He did everything he wanted to do to get that ball to turn and face. And cannot get the 5 or anything else to throw itself into the 7. If you would have told me this was going to come down to a potential 180 to 170, I would have told you were crazy.
I would not believe it either. All right. The way it looks right now. Kerry Painter.
Just has to match
Just
and needs a mark.
Gonna need a match. Get a mark in the 10th for
Yeah.
take home the title.
Yeah, I'll bet you they'll get done and put their equipment away, and whether who wins or loses, they're both going to be bewildered that this turned out the way it did.
And of course, the fill ball will carry. 179 in the books for Pete McCordic.
I mean, knowing how well oil holds up on the front of the lane, you know, normally people migrate left because the oil in the mid lane or towards the back end of the pattern goes away. You know, people say, oh, the heads are going away, so I need to jump left. But very seldomly do you lose that much volume of oil from the foul line to, say, 20 feet that you have to move left to chase oil. It's the oil at 24 feet, 26 feet that starts to get torn off the lane that causes you to move left. I'm just wondering if, you know, whatever they were doing in practice, they saw each other moving left, so they just kept going. And you know, maybe there's another option on the lane to stay to the right.
Here's Kerry Painter. And the strike.
That'll do it.
Just needs to stay behind the foul line now. Pete McCordic congratulating him. Not official yet, but just needs to stay behind the foul line, and Kerry Painter will win the inaugural ITRC Super Senior Classic. And just like that, our number 1 seed, only having to win one match, Kerry Painter.
He was my pick.
Eric Pearson's pick to click.
Especially when he's the top seed.
Oh, well, that makes it pretty easy to guess.
Yeah, it was yeah, 50-50 chance, yeah.
All right, then. Ironically, that's our first double of the match as well. 197 to 179. Kerry Painter will take home the $3,000 first place check. And a trophy. We'll have a presentation for you shortly. Eric Pearson's going to announce our winners in a second here, but on behalf of Eric Pearson, this is Aaron Smith. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the action here at the ITRC. right here in Arlington, Texas. Thanks for tuning in,
Everyone in a
and we'll see you next time.
unexpected battle of bowlers struggling to throw doubles here. A lot of 10 pins and 7 pins, but a great match nonetheless. Kerry Painter comes out victorious here in the inaugural USBC Super Senior Classic with a 197 to 179 victory over Pete McCordic. Great bowling all week, Pete. Congratulations. Second place finish. We will have a check and trophy presentation here shortly. I'll take a second to thank all the competitors for traveling to the ITRC this week to Arlington, Texas. Thank to all of you for being here for this first event. Hope everyone enjoyed their tournament experience here at the ITRC, and we'll hopefully put something together for next year, make it bigger and better.
Please do. Please. I'd like to defend.
So a big thanks to all the bowlers, and also a big thanks to the staff here at the ITRC for hosting us this week, putting on the event.